their version, the left's version of what's going to happen and what we want versus what we actually want and what's actually going to happen. You and I aren't sitting here saying Taylor Lorenz should be kicked off the site. You and I aren't saying Fauci should be booted forever from the internet, although I would kind of enjoy that, but I'm not calling for that. We just want a playing field of ideas. We actually want the free exchange of ideas. We don't want to do to them what they have been doing to you and to me and to all our colleagues in conservative media for over a decade now. The biggest thing that we're all focused on, other than the massive midterm, which is going to be the primary topic, I think, throughout the show, the blue bird is loose, man. It's happening. Yes. Twitter has been purchased by Elon Musk, and there is so much here. I know we like to preface this because Clay and I, we do this for a living, so Twitter is a part of our day-to-day routines. And for a lot of people, if you're not a blue check, if you're not on Twitter, you think, why does this matter? Couple of reasons. I'll just break it down broadly into, Clay, on the one hand, you have, this is the closest thing to a public town square, certainly for breaking news in real time, commentary and online conversation. It's also the first time, and this is the part of it that I get so excited about. So it's going to be a free speech platform. We believe we got to see what Elon does. We don't know yet, but why'd the guy just spend $44 billion? If he's not going to do massive changes, what's the point, right? It's a lot of money even for Elon to throw into this. The other part of, though, Clay, is for the first time, America will probably get a look under the hood of how the partisan propaganda sausage has been made. I think this was election changing in 2020. I think we're going to find out how much dishonesty and really how much fraud has been perpetrated by the woke libs of Twitter against the American people. I know you're super fired up about this.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Last night when I was watching the Monster Squad, great tip by
Thank you.
Wanted to watch a, sort of scary kid-ish movie with the boys for Halloween. They loved it. 1987. Somehow I had never seen that movie before, so that was a good tip. If you're out there looking for a movie from the 1980s that your kids may like, my kids really liked it. But this news broke while we were watching the Monster Squad. And so not only did Elon Musk officially take control of Twitter, but he immediately fired the CEO, the CFO, the person who was in charge of content-based decision-making, who had banned Donald Trump permanently, and their chief legal officer. So he essentially fired 4 people to clean the decks. Now, who exactly will be taking over those jobs is important. What the overall structure of the company looks like will matter to a large extent. But the rig job that has been in effect for years is finally, I think, going to start to crumble. And for people out there who maybe you don't like social media, maybe you don't pay any attention to it at all, I certainly understand why you would be in that camp. But Twitter is by far the most influential news location on the internet today, certainly in the United States, in terms of the way that it directs, in terms of the way that it sets narratives and is followed aggressively by people in media. So just having equal footing. I'm not saying that you need to be putting your finger on one side or the other of the marketplace of ideas, but just allowing competition to occur. And Buck, your point is a really good one. Allowing the algorithms hopefully to become public so we can see, oh my goodness, AOC didn't really have 20 million people supporting her. We just wanted at Twitter, as a collective we, to give as much support behind people whose left-wing ideas we embraced as we could. And people like you and I were being stifled while others were being allowed to spread their ideas widely, which I think ultimately, Buck, the really fascinating thing is here, I think Twitter broke Democrats because they started to believe it was real life. They were afraid of far left-wing talent on Twitter coming after them. And as a result, they went insane. And when we get a real, rational marketplace of ideas on Twitter, I think a lot of Democrats are going to say, oh, you mean that most parents aren't in favor of their kids' genitals getting chopped off while they're minors, and the vast majority of people out there don't believe that a biological man who identifies as a woman should be able to dominate women's sports? Like, these are just examples of things that are so outlandish that are staples of the Democrat Party now.
Twitter became, during the COVID era, a pure weapon of left-wing partisan politics.
Yes.
People always talk about how they kicked Trump off, which is insane. The sitting president of the United States was kicked off of your social media platform. The leader of the free world is not allowed to tweet. They did that. They kicked him off of Facebook.
While they still allowed the leader of Iran and Louis Farrakhan and all these other people to still be able to be on the platform.
So because I remember in the earlier days of this as well, because I've been fighting the commies ever since I came out of the CIA, which unfortunately had its fair share of commies in positions of power too. The earlier days of Twitter, it was always, oh, we suspended you? That's a mistake. Sorry. Oh, we suspended you? That wasn't supposed to happen. But it kept only happening to conservatives. But more and more people were using the platform. More and more people were becoming familiar with it. And they said, no, we believe in free speech with very narrow exceptions. And then that lie became too much for them to hold up anymore. And they just said, screw it. We're here to keep the Pelosi, Biden, Schumer apparatus in charge, to shut down any opponents of Fauci. The election, and notably the New York Post Hunter Biden lockout story, which might have been election changing. And people say, oh, that's crazy. I know I can't prove that. But Clay, 40,000 votes go differently in 4 or 5 states, and you've got a different election outcome.
It definitely changed the election.
It changed the election. So that they had, doesn't this all make sense, folks? We see Biden, Fetterman, they're putting these absolute nincompoops up to be people in positions of the greatest authority. It's only possible when you control the organs of propaganda the way that they do. It's only possible when you have in the early days of the Bolshevik Revolution, they seized the telegraph office, right? They seized the railways, they seized communication and transport, and then the rest all fell into place. The Twitter of today is only possible because during COVID, they used it's for your health to shut down debate, discussion. And without that, I don't think, Clay, they would have been able to enforce the orthodoxy of Fauciism.
Yeah,
it was only possible because people like you and me were saying, hey, hold on, masks, this isn't a good idea. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work. And we get fact-checked, you get throttled, you get shut down. They change the incentives, not just for people like you and me, but for everybody out there. Go along with Fauci, you get retweets. Go along with Biden's Fauci-eyed madness, and you get more followers. Go against them, and you get pushed out of the public square, especially for people who make a living doing this kind of stuff, Clay.
That's why I also don't think, Buck, that any of these people who are claiming now that they're going to leave, they're the equivalent of the people who said if Trump wins, I'm going to move to Canada, and none of them actually moved to Canada. A lot of the people in media, they don't have any influence outside of Twitter. And I think that's significant for people who may not use Twitter. You and I, if we didn't have Twitter, we still get to come talk to millions of people every single day on radio. And I would still get to run Outkick, and we can do hits on Fox News and television networks and everything else to talk to people in a variety of different ways. There are a massive number of people that only have Twitter, many of them on the left wing, who have been artificially enabled by the Twitter algorithm, and they don't have any influence anywhere else. So this idea that somehow they're going to suddenly say, oh, this is not right, I'm going to move somewhere else, I don't think is going to become a reality at all. And I would just say this, like Taylor Lorenz, who is one of the worst people of this era on the internet, said, and I read this, and I just find it so incredibly interesting to think about, not only today, but historically. She said, and I want to make sure I get this ridiculous tweet correct. She said that it's like the gates of hell opened on this site tonight. She works at the Washington Post. And I just want everybody out there to think, you're a history guy too, Buck, and I know a lot of our listeners are as well. When have the people in favor of censorship and in favor of restricting the marketplace of ideas, ever ended up on the right side of history, because all these people, Buck, have lectured us now for years. You're going to be on the wrong side of history. And I'm a history major. I sit around. I mean, historiography is the study of history. So if you can look back hundreds, thousands of years, history is never written by people who stifle, especially in America, long range, the discussion points of what can and cannot be said. They're never on the right side of history.
Right. Well,
and that's
but
so
they do end up writing
about
the history sometimes for 50 to 100 years. See the Soviet Union, China, right? I mean, Communist Party. They're on the wrong side morally, but the plan of the Democrats here is to create a one-party state where they get to write the history until eventually, Gandalf shows up with the Riders of Gondor, and all of a sudden, evil is vanquished again.
In America, it's never been the case that, thankfully, and our history is relatively short, but in the history of America, and certainly Western democracy and Western republics, it's never been the case that people who have stifled debate and dissent.
Yeah. Well, the suppression never lasts, is the point. I'm just saying they can go 50 years. They can go 100 years where they're lying about this and the suppression can be successful, just meaning we can't sit back and say, well, eventually the suppressive
well, but I think that's why
collapse.
This is so big, because this represents, to me, the ending of that era in many ways based on what Elon is doing.
I also think right now, you look at Facebook. Facebook's stock is down. You're the stock guy, Clay. 90%? Is that right?
Massively.
Massive. Maybe it's 70%, but for a company that used to look like a giant ATM machine of free cash flow.
Yeah.
I think it was $9 billion in free cash flow, something like that last year as a company, and this year it's down to like $1 billion. These social media platforms, when they see what happens now that there's going to be a place with the free exchange of ideas, notice also their version, the left's version of what's going to happen and what we want versus what we actually want and what's actually going to happen. You and I aren't sitting here saying Taylor Lorenz should be kicked off the site. You and I aren't saying Fauci should be booted forever from the internet, although I would kind of enjoy that, but I'm not calling for that. We just want a playing field of ideas. We actually want the free exchange of ideas. We don't want to do to them what they have been doing to you and to me and to all our colleagues in conservative media for over a decade now. We don't want that. They say we do, but we actually don't. No one is calling for that. So it just goes to show you we're the good guys in this. I'm just telling you, folks. We're on the side of the angels, and the libs are the suppressive totalitarian lunatics. So I think it's important we all keep it real. Clay, actually,
the Facebook answer, by the way, Buck, I'm looking at it right now, $353, 52-week high. The stock is now trading at 96. Now, that's just in the past year. It's at an all-time low. It has shed around $750 billion in market cap. The market cap now is around 250. So it was over $1 trillion market cap, and it now is down massively as its business model appears to be in many ways under siege.